Hello, welcome to GIT 314, Multimedia Design, Planning, and Storyboards. In this class, we are essentially creating a commercial using Photoshop, InDesign, and most importantly, After Effects. We're going to start with a creative brief, and from the creative brief, we're going to create storyboards, a visual representation of our idea, which the creative brief is. We're going to take those storyboards, cut them up, and create an animatic to develop our timing and our pacing. And from all of those, we're going to create our final television commercial. I'll talk more about that in a bit, but I want to get into the overall structure of the course here. So just a couple things ahead of that, though. Our course time commitment. This class is 135 hours worth of work, and that basically means for a 7-week class, 18 hours each week. This isn't an easy class, and I've done what I can to create an evenly paced course, but it does require all 18 hours to actually create the content and learn the material. The concepts that we cover are not simple, and it's going to take a lot of practice to master the tasks that we're required to accomplish in this class. As part of that, there's no late or missed assignments, so be aware of that. Due dates are due dates, so try to make sure that you have things submitted before those dates end. Now, I'm not against working with students who have life emergencies and that require some extra time, but you need to get a hold of me beforehand for me to consider any kind of late work being accepted. So let's work with that. Let's work together, and let's move through this class because it is a very fast-paced class. So please be aware that everything is published in Arizona Mountain Time, and I will talk a little bit more about that in a bit as well. But we also do give accommodations for religious practices and anything due to university-sanctioned activities, which you can see in these two links in the announcement here. The general pattern of this class is that modules open up on Mondays at 12 a.m. So this is when new content is released. Sundays at 11:59 p.m., assignments, projects, and discussions are due. So it's within 1 minute of each other, but it'll be released at midnight on Mondays. New content, Sundays, the following Sunday, generally speaking, everything's due at 11:59. So please make sure that we're on top of that. Now, let me jump back up here. So that's under announcements. I'm going to go back to announcements real quick. Now, I was talking about due dates, but one thing I discovered, especially with the Canvas mobile app, is that the time on the due date times and release times for the Canvas mobile app, release it in your local time zone. And if you're not in Mountain Standard Time Zone and are practicing daylight savings, you're going to have different due dates. However, what this class maintains is Mountain Standard Time in Arizona's time zone. So please be aware of that. So I've gone through and I've discussed several examples in this announcement here, but please make sure that if you're using the mobile app for your due dates, that you account for the time variance between time zones. Finally, due to the fast pace of this class, we are going to be going through the book, but if that is not enough and you need extra help in retaining the information, or maybe you learn better through primarily learning through video sources, this is not a mandatory requirement for the class, but a Pluralsight subscription and going through at least this tutorial right here is going to help you immensely in your overall success. I continue to learn actually using Pluralsight. It's very similar to other sites such as LinkedIn Learning/lynda.com, but it is geared more towards the graphics professional, and it is poignant to specific softwares and workflows and techniques that have worked well with my students in the past. So those are the general announcements. Now I'm going to go into modules here, and we'll start scrolling from the top here. But basically under the course class information, we have our syllabus, our schedule, the textbook and software, a bit about myself, and then office hours. I'm going to start with office hours. First of all, office hours are by appointment only, and we will be doing virtual office hours using Zoom. Here I have all of the necessary information that you'll need to download and register Zoom through ASU, and you have a free account with that. And basically what Zoom is, it's kind of like Skype or FaceTime or Google Hangout, and it's designed to host many people at once. I believe my account in particular can host up to 50 people at one time. We can all share screens, we can share webcams, we can text or chat with each other in a separate chat app, or I should say an attached chat app. And it's really quite an amazing tool. We can even share files between each other. So ASU has moved to Zoom as an official tool, and it's actually been a marvelous tool working remotely with students, as well as actually students on campus that couldn't make it on campus on any particular day or time. So that's a bit about Zoom, and that's office hours. The textbook and the software, you're going to want to get this as soon as possible, but After Effects CC Classroom in a Book, the 2017 release version. Now, in all honesty, you can get the 2018 release version, you can get the 2019 release version. We're not going to move officially to the 2019 release version until fall of this year, but for now, we're just going to continue on with the 2017 release. There's really very little difference within the releases of both this book as well as the After Effects software. Each release of this book is based on the latest release of the software, and not a whole lot changes in After Effects from year to year. So I've been using After Effects since 1999, and in all honesty, not much has changed in it since I started using it. It has gotten a bit more robust, but considering that it's been a bit over 20 years, not a great deal of functionality has changed. It's always been a very powerful tool for compositing video and remains so today. So please make sure that you get the book and that you start going through the exercises in a timely fashion. Okay, so I will start actually with the schedule. And this is the unofficial schedule, but I think it gives a nice visual breakdown of what is happening on a per module basis. And this is going to be posted in Canvas for you to review as you go along. But what we do is the first three modules, 0, 1, and 2, we're really focusing on chapters 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6 for module 1, and 7, 8, and 9 for Module 2. We are basically done in the first 4 weeks with the book, and that's in part why that 18 hours of work for this class is imperative. You are not going to be successful if, in fact, you're not going through and doing the exercises in the book. So please be aware of that. But on top of the exercises in the book, we're going to be working through the creative brief through Module 0. We're going to start that this week, and that's going to be due basically almost 2 weeks from the release of Module 0. So you'll see that in the other schedule here. This is just the visual representation overall. From the creative brief, we're going to jump into storyboards. And again, the creative brief, what we do is we create the idea of your television commercial. It could be a television commercial, it could be an infomercial, but we create the general idea of it, and we start working through that story and how to communicate that effectively. In the storyboards, we just create the visual representation of our idea, and I will talk more about that when we get into Module 0. From the storyboards, basically we take the storyboards and we cut them up in Photoshop and we create animatics. This is going to be like a rough draft for timing. You're going to be able to get a sense of pacing and how your story is flowing throughout your commercial, and the overall time that it's going to require to actually communicate what you have in your creative brief. I also want to, at this point, take into the idea that you'll do the creative brief in module 0, but maybe when you get to the storyboard, you realize that part of your creative brief or your idea needs changing. Go back, change the creative brief. It's not going to be a great deal of effort to do that, but it's going to be imperative for me to be able to give you full credit within your storyboards, because your storyboards is going to be based on the ideas you present in your creative brief. And if you don't update that creative brief and submit it to me, I'm not going to be able to give you credit for that. I'll talk more about that later. That kind of process, it's an iterative process or workflow, is going to go from the creative brief to the storyboards, and then from the storyboards to the animatics. It's kind of a revolving situation to really tighten up your overall story. And this may seem, and it is a lot of work, it may seem and is a lot of work, but what you're doing is you're actually saving time by doing that iterative process for the last 4 weeks, which is essentially what we're doing is we're working on the final project in After Effects, the final graphics, the final timing, and any polish work that needs to be done. It takes about, it's going to be a very quick turnaround for 85% of your final project. But that last 10 to 15% is going to take a great deal of effort, and a lot of the weighting of the final project in terms of your grade is going to be based on that last 15%. I'll be talking about this more. But overall, this is the pacing of the course for 7 weeks. So the first half of the class, we're going to be getting through the book and working through the creative brief, storyboards, and animatic. The last half of the class, we're really just working on the final project. And if you push, especially at the beginning and towards the middle, you're going to find that you're going to have some excess time towards Module 6 and the end of the semester to work on some of your other classes. Overall, that's the general pacing. More specifically, with dates, point values, etc., is the class schedule. Now, this is a PDF download that you can retain for your own records. It is subject to change, but not likely to in this class. It's just too short a class to be working through any changes within it. But you'll also notice that there are these project progresses. You're going to be posting up and sharing with sharing with your classmates the progress you're making on your final. And this is kind of a stopgap check to make sure that you are moving forward and pacing yourself. A lot of times students end up failing this class because they don't pace themselves well, and they will do the assignment at the last minute. Please don't do that for this class. It's actually going to hurt your grade more than any other condition. So that's the overall schedule, and you can review it, download it, etc.